Been going on all week, still no sign of a resolution, really. Matthew, with the business, we're talking about Cyprus, aren't we?
Yes, but hopefully, at least the President hopes, some resolution today, this Thursday. The President has been saying that it must be sorted out and, well, it seems a Plan B package has been put together. Party leaders will get to see that this Thursday morning and vote in Parliament, presumably if they like the look of it, later on today.
So what is actually in the plan? That's the big question, isn't it?
Sadly, they haven't shown me a copy of it, but
not yet.
I have seen quite a lot of leaks about what's in there, and it seems like this very controversial bank levy that caused all the upset will still be in there, but perhaps it won't be the levy on deposits under €100,000. More like over €100,000, or at least the lower level will be reduced. Now, the other factor, of course, is Russia, the finance minister of Cyprus there, trying to ease the terms of a loan that the country got in 2011. And we're hearing as well, trying to get more money, perhaps up to €5 billion from Russia. And finally, as you can see, they're nationalising the pension funds, taking into state ownership pension funds that belong to some part government-owned companies as well, €2 to €3 billion in those we're hearing.
You heard it there first from Matthew Warren. Meanwhile, banks, of course, in Cyprus been closed, and they're staying closed until next Tuesday at the earliest.
Yes, and that makes everyday life for people there in Cyprus pretty difficult, and that's particularly true for people running small businesses. More on that in this report from Catherine Viette.
Problems in paradise as Cyprus struggles to avoid bankruptcy. Amid fears of a possible tax on deposits, banks remain closed in a bid to avoid mass withdrawals. Other businesses remain open but are struggling, with anxious residents preferring to keep their wallets shut.
Basically, there's no customers whatsoever. Customers don't come even inside the shop to search for any new goods or like before. I think people are really scared of the actual environment that we're going through today.
Shop owners, too, are feeling the impact as they worry about how to pay suppliers.
We have problems when the banks are closed. It's like we're the living dead. We can't make any withdrawals. We can't make deposits, pay our suppliers. The banks must open because it's causing a huge problem.
Since the banks have closed, many businesses have stopped accepting credit cards or checks. In this restaurant, they prefer their customers to pay in cash.
I'm lucky. Customers are paying cash. All of the customers paid cash last night, so if I need money to buy something...
With some cash machines running out of funds, worried Cypriots can only wait as their government scrambles to avert a financial meltdown.
So how are the markets reacting to this latest news from Cyprus then?
Well, we saw them all fall sharply at the start of the week, but they've been a lot steadier since then. In fact, on Wall Street, markets finished the day up on Wednesday, also helped by comments from Bernanke, the head of the Federal Reserve there. He said he's going to continue the policy of cheap financing, which markets tend to like. In Asia, markets there have been trading up, at least in Japan on the Nikkei. Other markets pretty flat or slightly down. Now, earlier there was a bit more positivity there because there was some good news on manufacturing in China. This PMI data, any number above 50, suggests things are expanding. As you can see, the March figure was up on February, but in fact, Japan had slightly more disappointing news. It recorded its 8th monthly trade deficit in a row. That figure, 777 billion yen, or just over €6 billion in the red. Main reason there, lots of fuel imports. That's because it had to close down all that nuclear production after the Fukushima disaster.
Let's stick with Japan. We've been hearing more from the man who's going to take over at the central bank in Japan.
Yes, now we talked about him yesterday. This is Haruhiko Kuroda, his first proper job, proper day in his job, I should say. Sorry about that, Mr. Kuroda. He took over yesterday, but it was a public holiday in Japan. Now we can see him there. He went and met the Prime Minister earlier today and was asked about his plans. Let's take a listen.
The Prime Minister asked us to do everything we can to lift Japan's economy out of deflation. Of course, I myself and the two deputy governors have pledged to do everything we can to get the economy out of deflation.
Well, let's get to some of the day's other business news and some disappointment for Britain. It's failed to make changes to plans to limit bankers' bonuses. The final draft of that EU legislation will limit bonuses to 1 year's salary. In special cases, Britain had opposed the move, saying that it threatened its financial sector.
Now, disruption for passengers with Germany's Lufthansa this Thursday. The airline cancelling around 500 of its European flights. It follows strikes over pay demands. The main union wants a 5% increase. It says management has offered no increase while demanding longer hours.
And profits flat at the business software company Oracle in the latest quarter, and that was below analysts' expectations. Sales in both hardware and software were down. Oracle said, though, that the overall demand for its products was good. Instead, it needs to sharpen up the performance of its sales teams.
Now, as you've seen in the news, President Obama in the West Bank today, but a bit of a dispute over help for businesses there, isn't there?
Yes, and one big question is, should Jewish-run businesses in that area face sanctions? That's one issue that's been under discussion. Well, for more on that, this report from France 24's correspondent, Gallagher Fenwick.
A recent European report recommends that businesses in the settlements like this Jewish-owned winery in the West Bank not be allowed to label their products as being made in Israel. Brussels refers to this territory as occupied Palestinian land. The manager here says that such measures always backfire.
Every time that something like that published somewhere in the world, I have got hundreds of phone calls and emails. Yaakov, please send us three more cases, because we will support you. First of all, the wine is great. It's much better than the French wines nowadays.
The EU representative insists that this is meant to prevent businesses in the settlements from benefiting from the preferential tariffs which apply to Israel, and to help European consumers pick their products knowingly.
There is ongoing technical work on the issues of rules of origin, on the issues of labelling, by which we are hoping to provide consumers in Europe on a voluntary basis with the correct information regarding the origin of a product.
This Jerusalem-based NGO worker helped compile an extensive list of Israeli products made in the settlements and shipped to Europe.
States especially, but there's also cosmetics. A lot of people know Ahava cosmetics, but there's also wine.
According to the World Bank, the EU imported 230 million euros worth of merchandise from the settlements in 2012. That's 15 times more than what it bought from Palestinian businesses in the West Bank during the same period.
Gallagher Fenwick there. Now, finally, a milestone for one of the world's most popular websites.
That's right. For the video sharing website YouTube, they said that on Wednesday they passed the mark of having 1 billion people a month visiting the site.
A month.
That's right. It was launched in 2005 by 3 ex-PayPal employees, and they did pretty well because a year later it was bought by Google for $1.75 billion. Not bad. The first ever one was called Me at the Zoo, apparently. That was the first ever thing uploaded.
Perhaps we'll see it later on. Matthew, thanks very much. Matthew with the business here on France 24, the latest from Cyril after the break.